Good afternoon and welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. I'm Julia McGowan, coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center.
And I'm Jack Waterman. It's September 30th. On today's show, USC's first in-person theater performance since the pandemic began.
I don't think that online theater needs to live on when the real thing is just so much better.
The latest on evicting renters in LA.
Tenants are protected until March of 2022, so long as they apply for funding.
And using music to bring joy to cancer patients at USC. All that and more from Where We Are. Hey, Julia, what's up? How are you doing?
I'm good. I haven't seen you in a minute. What have you been up to?
You know, not too much. I had a friend come visit me from Dallas this weekend, and we hit up the beach and saw the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It was a lot of fun. What about you?
I actually flew down to New York this weekend for a wedding. It was super fun, but the whole time I was there, I just wanted to head into the city and see a play now that Broadway is back up and running post-COVID.
No way. I didn't realize Broadway was back in business. I know you're a theater major. Are the theater students able to start putting on productions again?
Yes, they are. Speak of the devil. Tonight, the School of Dramatic Arts, or SDA, will hold its first live in-person performance since the COVID-19 outbreak. Students and performers have waited almost 2 years for this. The play, Sarah DeLap's The Wolves, follows a competitive women's high school soccer team navigating the players' journeys to womanhood. Madeline Horowitz has more.
British actress and activist Sabra Williams is thrilled to be directing The Wolves.
The script is just a gift, an incredible, beautiful script about young women coming of age and, dealing with the world and all the difficulties of that. The cast are an absolute dream. They are just like the most beautiful, talented. There's like no resistance at all. They're super flexible and just beautiful, beautiful people.
Daisy Titchener is playing number 7, the striker. Now a senior majoring in theater, Titchener has been wanting to be a part of this play since she first read it in high school.
It was the first time I heard or read real female friendships and real female conversations depicted accurately and without judgment and without a male gaze or without an adult gaze or without this filter of trying to critique them for what they're doing or adjust it and make it something more palatable or interesting or standing up to a certain culture. And so this play, to me, is like the ultimate representation of young womanhood.
Williams is proud to give young women a voice.
I think you have an opportunity here to hear the reality of teenage young women as they starting to discover who they are and what the world is and where they fit into it. And so I hope that the audience will have more compassion and understanding for young women and what they're going through.
Tolly Green, a senior majoring in theater, is playing number 00, the goalie. Green and Titchener are excited about the cast of all women.
It's literally so fun. We're all so close and love each other. There's no drama. There's no animosity. Everyone loves each other. Everyone's so supportive. I feel so comfortable around them.
There's a sort of raw acknowledgement of truth and pain that I think you don't get all the time in a different sort of space. I think that women know that pain is innate and is a part of the human experience, and that also pain can give birth to joy and art and love. It felt like nothing was off limits during the rehearsal process.
The play is many of the performers' first time on stage since the COVID-19 outbreak. Green and Titchener especially miss the connection with a live audience.
Just the energy, the reactions, being able to feel that immediate connection with the audience, just something you can't do over Zoom. So yeah, even when we performed for the crew the first time they came, it was just so fun to have someone there.
I don't think that online theater needs to live on when the real thing is just so much better. But also, I do kind of wish people could see it. It was kind of nice that everyone could see Zoom shows.
As the first performance back since the COVID-19 outbreak, Williams is excited to bring new traditions to SDA theaters, including paying tribute to the Tongva people.
I'm glad that this is the first production for USC back, but I hope that we can acknowledge that the Tongva people are still here. We're on stolen land, and that we should honor their lives and the lives of people who have gone before our elders and our ancestors on this land.
The performance will debut on Thursday, with several showtimes throughout the weekend. All LA County and USC COVID-19 guidelines will be followed. For Annenberg Media, I'm Madeline Horowitz.
What other USC team bounced back from 2 losses to start the season and is currently on an undefeated streak? Women's soccer. Taylor Mills has more.
USC football is proving to be the headline-making team this year. But may I draw your attention to another Trojan team taking the field by storm? Soccer. Women's soccer.
Plays it to Bethune. Bethune trying to get a shot off. She does, and she scores. And it's 1-0 USC on the 4th goal of the season.
The USC women's soccer team is currently on a 6-game winning streak. While there was embarrassment against Oregon State in the Coliseum, soccer took care of business against the Beavers on Friday with a 2-1 win. Head coach Kadani McAlpine wasn't too impressed with his team's performance despite the win, but he did admit there were some highlights in a post-game interview.
We built into the game enough to where I thought we missed some chances. We didn't quite defend well, but you get moments of brilliance.
This victory added to USC Soccer's longest winning streak since 2018. The list includes 4 consecutive shutouts. Senior All-American Penelope Hawking buried the goal of the day in the 85th minute. This pulled the Trojans ahead of OSU for the dub. The senior has now scored in 4 straight games, including a gnarly arc she shot last week against CSUN. She laughed it off in an interview after the game, but here's the best part. She scored with only 1 shoe on.
I was trying to get it on the whole way up the field, and then the ball kind of came to my foot, and I just ditched my shoe and shot it and scored.
Hawking isn't the only baller on this team. USC has an impressive roster, with the number 4 recruiting class in the country. The ranks include Brazilian youth national player Helena Sampaio and American youth national player Simia Wujo. Coach McAlpine explained, it's the program's reputation that attracts this talent.
The biggest selling point is what we've been able to do since we arrived, and the consistency that we've shown in terms of the quality of our team and our ability to always be relevant.
McAlpine arrived at SC in 2014. Since then, he's won a national championship and has never missed a postseason. Looking forward, the 2021 Pac-12 is stacked with some of the top teams in the nation, including number 3 UCLA and number 10 Stanford. There may be one missing ingredient to this team's success: their fans.
I know literally nothing about the women's soccer team at USC.
That's Luke Odemeyer, a senior majoring in law, philosophy, and politics. He is one of the many students on campus who missed the memo on soccer home games. Compared to Galen Center or the Coliseum, stands tend to be sparse at McAllister Field. According to McAlpine, recognition from his players' own school actually really counts.
I'd love to see more fans get an opportunity to see these women compete and see just how much fun it can be to watch them play.
The Trojans' next slate of games are on the road in Arizona. On Thursday, USC plays Arizona State. Now, the last time these two teams faced off, USC lost 1-0. But this squad may be motivated to keep its win streak going. For Annenberg Media, I'm Taylor Mills.
For decades, Los Angeles hasn't built enough homes to meet its growing household demands. This has helped create fast-rising rents and home prices and put home ownership out of reach for many Angelenos. Some families have responded by leaving Southern California altogether. Earlier this month, Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law 2 reforms targeting California housing. Perry Budd looks at Senate Bills 9 and 10.
Anthony DeDucis is the Director of Policy and Research at Abundant Housing LA, a nonprofit organization that campaigns to make Los Angeles and California more affordable with more housing options for people at all levels of income.
Organizations like Abundant Housing and many, many others, environmental organizations, transit advocates, affordable housing advocates, business organizations, labor organizations, understand that it's appropriate after decades of cities kind of just puttering along and deciding that the current zoning rules work just fine, that the state step in and take action.
Los Angeles leads every city in the nation in both the cost of housing and lack of housing options. This places the city at the epicenter of the California housing crisis, trends which deducers say are deeply connected.
And so those two things go together. And the reason, now you might ask, well, why is that? The reality is that over the last 30 to 40 years, Los Angeles and cities across California have made it really difficult to build housing. Even in areas where you think it would be quite logical to have a lot of housing, like mass transit, in job-rich areas, in high-resource, popular, desirable neighborhoods and cities.
For years, California has employed restrictive single-family zoning laws which prohibit developers and homeowners from meeting the demands of California's ever-growing housing market.
75% of the land in Los Angeles that is zoned for housing is zoned for single-family homes only. That means no duplexes, no fourplexes, no bungalow courts, no mid-rise apartment buildings, no high-rise apartment buildings, nothing except for a house.
This barrier has downstream effects which negatively impact the most income insecure Angelenos.
Now, that's fine and dandy if you have enough money to afford a house, which in Los Angeles can cost almost $1 million, depending on where it is. But most people can't afford $1 million house. And so the fact that we have effectively banned more affordable forms of housing on 3/4 of our city's land for housing has some pretty nasty downstream impacts. Again, that helps to explain why we have some of the highest housing costs in the nation. It helps to explain why our neighborhoods are so segregated by race and class.
2 weeks ago, Governor Gavin Newsom signed Senate Bills 9 and 10, the first reforms to California's zoning laws in decades.
There is no one magic pill or magic bullet, right? There is no one law that's going to fix the problem. And so that's why our policy agenda focuses on what we call the core four. We support legalizing more housing. We support making housing easier to build. We support funding affordable, subsidized housing in order to help end homelessness. And we support expanding renters' legal rights.
While the challenges are plentiful, Deduces remains confident that these recent reforms are a step in the right direction.
There's no one big law. We're going to need dozens of incremental laws to solve the problem. But with SB 9 and 10, we've gotten a few steps closer to that.
With Annenberg Media, I'm Perry Budd.
As California lifts its rental moratorium, many households are at risk of facing eviction. With hundreds of thousands of families applying for rental assistance, California is spending nearly $1.2 billion in efforts to prevent evictions. Jose Romo has more.
The eviction moratorium is set to end after today across the state of California. Previously extended this past summer, the moratorium has allowed for renters to avoid eviction if they paid at least 25% of their rent. Governor Gavin Newsom has promised to assist Californians in any way that he can.
Anybody that has been impacted by COVID that owes rent going back to last April, not just this April, last April, we will pay 100% of that rent. We'll also pay that rent, 100% of it going forward through September.
The city of Los Angeles will use federal funding to pay off up to 18 months of rent. To qualify for this program, renters must earn 80% or less of the region's median income. As of Monday, hundreds of thousands of low-income households throughout California have applied for assistance. This is estimated to cost the state $3 billion. Some cities like Oakland are extending their moratorium past October 1st, meaning tenants can't be evicted due to COVID-19 related issues. This includes the loss of wages, layoffs, medical costs, or business closures. Oakland's Mayor Libby Schaaf spoke about the extension alongside Newsom at Wednesday's press conference.
In Oakland, the eviction moratorium is still in place and will continue until the Oakland City Council declares an end to the local health emergency.
Beginning October 1st, the law requires any landlord to highly recommend a tenant to apply for rental assistance before evicting them. However, landlords can begin suing for unpaid rent starting November 1st.
While people keep calling it the end of the moratorium, tenants are protected until March of 2022, so long as they apply for funding. So even if a landlord wanted to evict because the tenant hasn't paid, the landlord can serve a notice on the tenant And then they wait to see if the tenant has applied, and if the tenant's been authorized for funding, then no eviction takes place.
But the end to the moratorium doesn't yet signify a return to pre-COVID-19 measures for landlords. Renters are largely protected past the October 1st expiration because of California legislation, said Executive Vice President of the California Apartments Association, Deborah Carlton.
One advice we're giving to landlords and tenant is to communicate with each other. Unfortunately, many tenants just aren't communicating and don't apply for funding. If you don't apply for funding, you will face eviction. So apply for funding, especially if you are lower income, have lost your job.
California plans on spending more than $5 billion in federal funding on rent relief programs. California residents can start applying for the relief programs after October 1st. Carlton's advice for renters and landlords is to communicate and apply for funding. Even as the moratorium is set to expire, renters may still avoid eviction in California. As long as they apply for funding and notify their landlord, their debts can be federally subsidized, but more importantly, will leave them ineligible for eviction. For Annenberg Media, I'm Jose Romo.
I'm Jack Waterman. We're glad you're with us for From Where We Are.
And I'm Julia McGowan. It's 16 minutes past the hour. Coming up, all the important things in life. Music, coffee, and Britney Spears. USC requires most students, faculty, and staff to be vaccinated against COVID-19, but an email sent earlier this week adds a new requirement. Students, faculty, and staff will also need to get the flu vaccine before November 1st. Wilko Martinez-Cachero asks students how they feel about this.
Appointments for the flu vaccine are flying because of the November 1st deadline. This policy was also in effect last school year. The reaction within the Trojan community has been mixed. Some believe it's no big deal, such as senior economics student Matthew Kim.
You know, USC required vaccines in the past, the flu vaccine and also the COVID vaccine, so I feel like people should be used to it by now. It should be pretty standard procedure, but I don't know, everyone has their own opinions on it, so I mean, I respect their opinions, but at the same time, like, you know, we've been doing it.
Kevin Klusman, a first-year master's aerospace and mechanical engineering student, agrees.
I mean, like, I've gotten flu vaccinations before, so I don't really mind. And given the current context, I understand where they're coming from, so.
Flu season does not start until December for most areas and is unusual before November 1st, said Chief Health Officer Dr. Sarah Van Orman.
So you don't want to give flu shots too early because if you have a late influenza kind of season, and sometimes we've seen it as late as March, then you have people that might have waning immunity if they got the vaccine too early.
And with so many things going on in the semester right now, flu season is not on everybody's minds. Just ask Sundiata Ture. He is a 33-year-old returning international relations student.
If I can remember, like, something I'm out, and I'm like, oh yeah, or if I go to the doctor and they recommend it, and then I'll get it. But I never, like, actively look for it. I probably would have forgot about it, to be honest.
But others, like first-year civil engineering student Jasmine Mendez, are not too used to the flu shot.
No, I think last time I got it was like elementary school, so I haven't gotten it in a while. For the most part, I mainly used like home remedies for my parents and stuff. Tea for the most part, lots of fruit, soup. I've never really gotten the shot, so I'm not sure how I'd react to it. But I'm like overall, I'm pretty like okay with it.
And while there hasn't been much outrage on campus about the flu shot requirement yet, the feedback online has been less kind. A recent social media post about the requirement saw comments saying that the shot should not be quote-unquote forced on students, that students should fight back, or that Trojans should stand up against tyranny. Olivia DeFilippo, a senior PR student, disagrees.
It's not tyranny if they're just trying to keep you safe and healthy.
For those on the fence, the flu vaccine will be added to Trojan Check, and it will be a requirement for students taking in-person classes and living in USC housing. For Annenberg Media, I'm Wilko Martinez-Cachero.
A group of dedicated musicians based at USC donate their time to try and bring some joy to cancer patients at Keck Hospital. They call themselves the Medicinal Music Makers. Their goal is to use music as a tool for healing and bring some happiness to the patients and caregivers in the cancer ward. Gabriela Castania produced this report.
Time in bed in the cancer ward can be lonely and monotonous, especially during COVID when visitors are restricted. So, USC's Medicinal Music Makers got together and gave a concert on YouTube for cancer patients to watch when they feel need. This is a mashup of Katy Perry's Firework and Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe.
I took no time with the fall. You gave me nothing at all, but still you're in my way. I beg and borrow.
Playing piano is the founder of Medicinal Music Makers, USC graduate student Valerie Narumi. Narumi says the music is especially uplifting when the patient has a personal connection to a song.
On the off chance that one of the videos maybe holds like a really important memory to them, you know, that would be honestly really, really beneficial to the patient or whoever is watching it and be like, oh, this is comforting right now.
That is concert pianist and USC music professor Antoinette Perry.
I feel it's a link to the spiritual, it's a link to the soul, which can be very difficult to achieve in today's society. And, you know, it's a very busy world, it's a very competitive world. It makes everything stop for us. It's very helpful in bringing us beauty and love, but also expressing our negative emotions also, which is needed too.
The comfort these musicians provided might have been greater before COVID when they could play in person in the hospital lobby. Genevieve Nelson is the creative director at USC's Institute of Arts and Medicine.
So just having this experience of sitting in the lobby and feeling transported by beautiful music, whether it's in the Norris Cancer Center lobby or Keck Hospital lobby, is so wonderful.
Nothing alters our mood and sense of time like music.
You know, when you're a cancer patient or a loved one of a cancer patient, time is like really, really important. How you spend that time becomes critical.
The music can relieve anxiety, says USC oncologist and researcher at the Institute of Arts and Medicine, Yatsen Pinsky.
Especially music have been shown to improve the anxiety of patients with very advanced and terminal diseases such as cancer.
One of the patients with advanced cancer is using an aspect of the Medicinal Music Makers, in which patients work with composers and musicians. He is writing a song for his longtime girlfriend, says the program founder, Valerie Narumi.
He wants to create a parody, I guess, of a piece, like rewrite the lyrics and dedicate that to his girlfriend, who has been with him like for his entire cancer journey.
Narumi says this experience has been as rewarding for her as it has been for the patient and his girlfriend.
I see them sometimes throughout his 2 treatments thus far, and there's times where he's just really, really tired, but he just becomes really excited doing this project and looking forward to the end goal.
Music and illness can both show us how we are interdependent. For Annenberg Media, I'm Gabriela Castania.
If you'd like to join the good work of this musical organization, visit their website at medicinalmusicmakers.weebly.com.
Tomorrow is International Coffee Day. Drink up. How Zoo spoke with coffee shop owners in South LA.
Coffee shops and asked about their story with coffee, why coffee is special to them, and why coffee is special to their communities. John Kennard, the founder and CEO of Black and Latino-owned Coffee Del Mundo based in South LA, believes drinking coffee is not only a relaxation, but also an activity that brings people together.
Coffee is important to me because it's just such a connector of communities, of people, of different. Everyone wants to drink and taste something warm, and you're normally sitting at a table, and a table's not normally built for one person. Yeah. So it really provides a soft way to engage other people and really disarm people, because everyone can relate to enjoying a cup of coffee.
Perceptions of coffee culture, especially in Los Angeles, is generally white-oriented. But there are those like John who looked at coffee's origins to show a more inclusive story about the drink and those who consume it.
What we do is we work directly with small farms around the world. What we really pride ourselves on is to showcase that coffee is not a European thing. It's actually a Central American thing. It's actually an African thing, right? And that's where the regions of where it can even grow. And so what's absolutely important is to understand where my coffee is coming from specifically.
During his work, John realized that there are people out there, just like him, who have sensitive stomachs, so he decided to make a coffee shot that can suit everyone's diet.
Why don't I create one that's designed for my diets? Because not everyone is from Europe and not everyone can ingest milk and dairy. And so Coffee Del Mundo, we're 100% plant-based, and everything on our menu is designed for the diets of people of color.
Sometimes Angelenos take coffee drinking above and beyond sipping a cup to get you through the day. More often than you think, coffee is a magical experience for many of us. Beverly Buscus is going to introduce Nimbus Coffee, a whimsical space located in downtown LA that makes unique tasting coffee. There is a fantasy theme that comes straight out of a children's novel. Here, Withers can order the brews from a spell book.
This is going to sound really cheesy, but something really magical. It's a magical substance that can be enjoyed by anyone. It could be simple, but it could also be made really complex, and anyone could enjoy it. I think it's an element that can be key in a community. So we like to make that middle ground where we educate people about what kind of coffee there is, what's the different tastes in it, and how do different people make it and enjoy coffee.
In this International Coffee Day, we have options from casual to the magical, from South LA to downtown. Whichever where you go, you will know where to get a good cup of joe. For Annenberg Media, on Hao Xu.
Isn't that the root source music?
Yep, it's time for Root Source, our segment about the origin of curious words and phrases. When a movement is really important, it gets its own hashtag. And here's Jack Reed on hashtag Free Britney Spears.
Shirts, mugs, and banners. Nowadays, there's hardly an item you can't find with the hashtag Free Britney on it. And if you weren't paying attention in 2008, you may not know the origin of the phrase. Beginning as a social media trend in support of pop star Britney Spears, the hashtag has since appeared on all forms of social media. Having been under a legal conservatorship following her infamous bald breakdown in 2007, in which she shaved her head in front of paparazzi and vandalized a car with an umbrella, Spears no longer directs her own career, finances, and at 38 years old is technically not even considered an adult.
Stay to the left, please. Why'd you cut your hair like that, Britney? Stay to the left, please.
Instead, her father was selected alongside Bessemer Trust Company to represent her interests. While she's been caught in this conservatorship since 2008, the trend didn't gain traction until 2019, when a voicemail claiming to be a member of Britney's legal team aired on a podcast called Britney's Gram, alleging that she was being held involuntarily. Immediately, fans took to the street in protest.
Hey, ho, ho! The conservatorship has got to go! Hey, ho, ho! The conservatorship has got to go!
The hashtag has only gained traction since then, becoming especially popular on media apps like Twitter and TikTok. Even fellow celebrities like Miley Cyrus have expressed their support for the star. Since then, Britney has become even less content with the arrangement, having fought legal battles for years to remove her father, end the conservatorship, and gain greater autonomy. She even went public for the first time in years to give a court statement detailing the abuse that she suffered throughout the years.
I cried on the phone for an hour and he loved every minute of it. The control he had over someone as powerful as me, 1,000%, he loved it. I packed my bags and went to that place. I worked 7 days a week, no days off, which in California, the only similar thing to this is called sex trafficking.
Despite the tragic conditions that the pop star is still under, fans of the hashtag Free Britney can still celebrate, as according to a recent court ruling, her father is now suspended from the conservatorship, which was one of the singer's primary goals. There's still a long way to go before she's anywhere near free, but the star is much closer to the end of the tunnel. For Annenberg Media, I'm Jack Reed.
This Saturday, the Women's March returns. Events will take place from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles and throughout the country. This year's march will take place just 2 days before the Supreme Court reconvenes for its next term, in which it is expected to decide important issues for women's reproductive rights. Joining us now is Ayana Martinez from ATVN's See It Live. Their show tonight will focus on the Women's March.
Ayana, thank you for joining us. What's happening nationally and locally?
Yeah, so nationally, people are gearing up and taking to the streets this weekend to march for women's rights and raise their voices about the dangers of overturning Roe v. Wade. Over 600 cities will be hosting the marching, and locally, Los Angeles is one of them.
Nice. And why is this critical right now?
Yeah, it's critical because people's livelihoods are at stake. You know, their agencies are at stake. What happened in Texas could easily happen across the country. So people feel that it's critical that they raise their voices today and make their themselves heard.
Yeah, that's awesome. How will you cover these issues on your show tonight?
Yeah, we're going to be covering this across the board. We'll be speaking to everyone from people across the country to people right here at home at USC. We're listening to differing opinions on what's happening now and looking into their plans on what's to come in the future. So it's going to be an amazing show that you don't want to miss.
Well, thank you, Ayana. To watch the full See It Live on this issue, tune in tonight at 6 p.m.
And that's all we have time for today on From Where We Are. Today's show was produced by Polina, Cherezova, Wilko, Martinez-Cachero, and Jeffrey Lee.
Polina Cherezova runs the soundboard, and Derek Renfro composed our theme music. We are streaming live on KXSC. Follow them at kxsc.org/listen.
And we're on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News. Subscribe to From Where We Are on Apple Podcasts, and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Annenberg Media. If you're looking for more news, be sure to download Annie, Annenberg's news app. I'm Jack Waterman.
And I'm Julia McGowan. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for From Where We Are.